Good evening, or morning, or afternoon, depending when you're watching this. My name is Zeus, and the game on the screen is Magicka. Magicka is a action-adventure game on the PC, available through Steam, and is developed by Arrowhead Game Studios and published by Paradox Interactive. On Steam itself, there are many DLC packs, and so if you get it now, you can just get it with all the DLC packs. It's more expensive than standalone, but it's cheaper than getting all the packs separately, so if you can afford it, just get all the packs because it can help. But if you can only afford the standalone game, then get it because it is pretty fun. It's based on a wizard, and the story itself requires you to go through levels and killing stuff. And how you actually kill the stuff is using the 8 elements, which you can see in the bottom left. I know 8 sounds like far too many elements, but in this game there are 8, so I shall stick with that. Going from top left to bottom right, you have water, life, shield, cold, lightning, arcane, rock, and fire. And those are activated by the keys Q, W, E, R, A, S, D, and F. So you don't actually move with W, A, S, and D, F. You use your mouse to do that. So you put your cursor across the screen, then left click and hold it down, and it would take you to that location. And this game is very interesting because you're allowed a combination of 5 elements. You don't even have to do 5, you can do up to 5. You can have just one, you can do all 5, and you can mix. And some will mix, some won't mix, some will just sort of cancel each other out, some will add to each other. For example, if you do the water and the fire, they won't cancel out, they'll actually go to steam. The water and the cold will go to ice. But if you try and do the lightning and the rock, they'll both cancel out. It's the same with shield and shield cancel each other out. I think fire and cold cancel each other out, and life and arcane cancel each other out. So they're just something to bear in mind. And then it's pretty interesting how it works, because if you actually use the water and you wet an enemy, and then you hit them with the cold, they'll freeze them, like currently how it is on screen at the moment. And using that, you can then use like the arcane and the lightning, and that'll do even more damage. So they kind of stack, and that just adds a lot of complexity, and you can do lots of various things. So how I actually cast the spells is you can right click, which would send it out as like a beam, depending if you're using arcane, or as like a rock, a projectile. If you hold down Alt, then it'll do it as an AoE and do it in like the area around you. Or you can, if you middle click, then you'll cast it on yourself. So if you want to heal yourself, you'd hit life and then middle click and you'd heal yourself. And that's where it gets interesting, because if you use arcane and pair it with something else and then you cast it, it'll do it as a beam. Whereas if you just did fire, it would just do it as like a flamethrower and wouldn't be very effective. If you use the rock and do it as an AoE, it knocks them down, and that can be very useful trying to get away from enemies. That's usually what I do. What I do is I pair it with the water, and so when you do it as an AoE, you knock them down and you wet them. Do the same thing again, just with cold instead of water, and because they're already wet, it freezes them and they can't move for a few seconds, and you can just hit them with like lightning and arcane, and it just rapes them pretty badly. So you can do a lot of things. You'll see me doing that. Now, if you have noticed on the screen me from the little chest things that spawn and you kill them, they can drop little books, and those books are called Magicks. And what Magicks are is they're a specific set of elements that you chain, and instead of just casting it normally, you hit spacebar, and that'll cast as a specific thing. So for example, at the moment is Napalm, and Napalm's pretty interesting. I think I use it a few times. I might have used it already, can't remember. There's also like Thunderbolt, invisibility, haste, which makes you run faster, summon elementals, which is what all those grey things are. You can do the code and it'll summon like this thing that won't move until you hit it with an element. So if you hit it with fire, it'll become like a fire elemental, and so it'll attack with fire, and if you hit it with fire, it'll actually heal it. And the enemies themselves will have various resistances and strengths. It's kind of like Pokemon. So like if there's one enemy which has like this massive shield, and so you can't actually hit it with much until you knock that shield off, so you can do that with the rock. So it gets pretty interesting, and it's pretty fun. The story mode itself has you going through levels, and just killing stuff, and that's pretty fun. That takes a while actually. I think there's 12 levels and they get pretty difficult, so it takes a good, I'd say 4 to 5 hours to clear the whole thing, so it is pretty extensive for how much you're paying. It is definitely more fun with friends as well, so if you can get your friends to buy it, it's a lot better. However, one word, I don't know if they fix this or if it's even fixable. This game will not work on your PC if you have an integrated graphics card. That's something Ari had a problem with when he was trying it on his laptop. So you need if you're on a laptop, but it's a dedicated card, if it's an Nvidia or an ATI card, then you'll be okay. But if it's like the Intel GMA integrated ones, then it won't run. I think it's because it's how it's coded. So there's that problem. The other problem that we had was connection issues when you try to connect to each other. I think they were just lag problems, especially when you try to connect to someone across the globe. Like when we were trying to play with Americans and things, it gets pretty laggy and gets pretty bad. But there's another game type called Challenges, which is what I was actually playing just now. And so it's kind of like horde mode, but there's just waves. And I apologize for starting on wave 2 because I'm an idiot and I forgot to hit record when I started. But I got to wave 12 and there's 20 waves, and so it gets pretty difficult, but I am a bad player at this game, so playing with more people is definitely easier and makes things interesting because you can actually kill each other and it gets pretty frustrating. I think that's about it, so thank you for watching. I've been Zeus and I shall see you in the next one.
That's gruesome. Look at that, man. How long has he been? You can take his skull?